Trooper Cody here with a story about the Addams family. And no, I'm not talking about the television movie Addams Family of Morticia and Gomez Addams. Talking about an American family, been around for many generations, and their connection with Samuel Colt. And what we're talking about is today, in the US of A, the Addams family descendants still own a Colt handgun, and that Colt handgun was one of the first batch of 4,000 that was made in the town of Hartford, Connecticut. They actually still have the gun in the family, and its serial number is 3957. So it's one of the last from that batch of 4,000. The records show that this firearm was bought brand new in Richmond, Virginia, on the 16th of April 1861, and it was bought by a man who was already in the Virginian Cavalry. His name was Stephen Clinton Adams, and he was born in 1836. He was a private in the 6th Virginia Cavalry, and he was in K Company. Most of his service during the US Civil War was with Jeb Stuart, and the records show that Stephen Adams actually took part in the first ride around McClellan. Now, I don't want to get into the American Civil War about was Jeb Stuart in the right or the wrong. Was Lee let down by Jeb Stuart because he sort of Lee fell into Gettysburg? Let's just leave it that the person that this story is about, Stephen Adams, was in the Virginian Cavalry and took part in the first ride around McClellan. Pretty amazing family history. But he was actually captured by the Union on the 14th of September 1862, and in those times they had an exchange program in place, and so he was very lucky, captured in September, and he was exchanged in November. He went back to his same regiment and was promoted to sergeant. There are a number of photos, and perhaps if you look on the internet, Wikipedia, you might be able to find some photos of Stephen Adams. And I'm hoping the thumbnail will be the most important photo of Stephen Adams. And the reason the photos are really important is because after he came back as a sergeant, Stephen Adams was joined by his 13-year-old brother, Thomas F. Adams. Now, when Thomas joined the regiment at 13, he's 13, so when he joined, he looked very delicate. Well, he was saying he was only 13, and he had very fine features bordering on slightly effeminate, perhaps. But then once he was a part of the regiment, he then developed a reputation for dressing rather flamboyantly, lots of colour. And so I don't know if you know where I'm going here with this story, because the next thing is that Stephen and his brother, they seem to be exceptionally close, unusually close. You know, maybe in this day and age, I don't know what it was like in the 1860s, but in this day and age, if you saw two people like that, you might immediately suspect they were gay, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as we know. It's perfectly normal, but that's what you might have thought about these two because of how the younger brother looked a bit effeminate and dressed a bit gaily, meaning in the old 50s terminology of gaily. So the records at the time recorded him as always wearing fanciful flamboyant cavalry garb. What happened was the two of them survived the war, and it was only once the war was over that his brother Thomas was revealed to be not his brother at all. You knew that bit was coming. But what was revealed is that actually it was female. Thomas wasn't even a male. Thomas was Elizabeth Nichols, and Elizabeth Nichols had been Stephen's sweetheart prior to the war, joined the cavalry, joined as a young man, and served through the war as a male. They got married. So they got married after the war. They got married in 1868. They had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Stephen died in 1877 and he was only 41 years old. Meanwhile, she lived, having been in the cavalry during the Civil War on the Confederate side, and she lived to 1934, dying at 86 years of age. She never spoke to family members about the war and her time in the cavalry, and so there are no stories or anecdotes from that time because she never talked about it. Currently the family has 3 photographs in their possession that unnecessary. 3 photographs in their possession that were taken during the Civil War, and the amazing thing is that Stephen Adams is recorded to have bought his Colt 16th of April 1861, serial number 3957, and it is still in the Adams family possession along with the originals of those 3 photos taken during the Civil War. What amazing family history. So there's a bit of a different story for you, a bit of a personal story, and particularly my American friends, I wonder if they had heard of that before. Cheers. If you want to see more of Trooper Cody, please make sure to subscribe, click that like button, and make a comment, even if it's only to say hoorah or give a rebel yell. Cheers.